I, 28F, have been living with my boyfriend Mark, 30M, for the past 2 years. We met at a local coffee shop where I was a regular. I always noticed him there, typing away on his laptop. One day, I accidentally spilled my coffee on his table. I was embarrassed, but he just laughed it off and helped me clean up. We started talking and realized we had a lot in common. We both loved hiking, were into true crime podcasts, and shared a weird obsession with collecting vintage maps. We began meeting up at the coffee shop regularly, and soon our coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Mark was funny, kind, and always made me feel comfortable. After a few months of dating, we decided to make it official. Everything was going great. We moved in together after a year, and I thought we were building a solid future. That was until last week when Mark dropped a bombshell on me. His ex-girlfriend, Sarah, reached out to him for help. Apparently, she had to vacate her apartment suddenly and needed a place to stay. Mark asked if it would be okay for her to crash at our place for a while. I was shocked. I knew about Sarah from the stories Mark had told me, but I never thought I'd have to deal with her directly. I told Mark I wasn't comfortable with his ex living with us. It just felt wrong on so many levels. He seemed disappointed, but said he understood. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next evening, I came home from work exhausted. All I wanted was to curl up on the couch with Mark and watch our favorite show. Instead, I walked into our living room to find Sarah sitting there, surrounded by suitcases. I froze. Sarah looked up at me with an awkward smile and waved. Mark came out of the kitchen, looking nervous. I lost it. I demanded to know what was going on. Mark tried to explain that Sarah had nowhere else to go, that it was just temporary. But all I could focus on was the fact that he had gone behind my back and moved his ex into our home without my consent. We had a huge fight. I told him how disrespectful this was, how it made me feel like my opinions and feelings didn't matter to him. Mark kept insisting that I should be more understanding, that I should be a nice human being. A nice human being? Was I not nice when I welcomed him into my life? When I supported him through his job change? When I nursed him back to health when he got that terrible flu? How was it not nice to want to keep my home, my safe space, free from his past relationships? The more we argued, the more I realized how differently we viewed the situation. To Mark, this was about helping someone in need. To me, this was about trust, respect, and boundaries. I couldn't believe he was willing to jeopardize our relationship for his ex. I started wondering if there was more to this story. Did he still have feelings for her? Was I just a placeholder until Sarah came back into his life? As I write this, Sarah is still in our guest room. Mark is sleeping on the couch, and I'm alone in our bed, feeling betrayed and confused. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to kick them both out, but another part is scared of losing Mark. I keep replaying our relationship in my head, trying to see if I missed any signs. Was I too trusting? Did I ignore red flags? I thought we had a strong foundation, but now it feels like it's crumbling beneath my feet. I need advice. Am I overreacting? Should I try to be more understanding? Or should I stand my ground and demand that Sarah leaves? How do I even begin to rebuild trust with Mark after this? I never thought I'd be in this situation. I always prided myself on being a good judge of character, but now I'm questioning everything. The worst part is, I still love Mark. I thought he was the one. But now I'm not so sure. Any advice or similar experiences would be greatly appreciated. I feel lost and could use some perspective. Edit. Thank you all for your responses. I'm overwhelmed by the support and advice I've received. I'll post an update soon once I figure out my next steps. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and I wish I had better news to share. The situation with Mark and his ex-girlfriend Sarah has only gotten more complicated and heartbreaking. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice and support meant a lot to me during this difficult time. Many of you suggested I should stand my ground and demand Sarah leave. Others advised me to have a serious talk with Mark about boundaries and respect. I tried to follow your advice, but things didn't go as planned. For the past week, I've been giving Mark the silent treatment. I know it's not the most mature response, but I've been so hurt and angry that I can't bring myself to talk to him. He's tried to approach me several times, but I've just walked away or locked myself in our bedroom. During this time, I've been reflecting on my relationship with Mark, especially what he told me about Sarah when we first started dating. Mark had mentioned that Sarah was his first serious girlfriend. They dated for 3 years in college and even talked about getting married after graduation. According to Mark, their relationship fell apart when Sarah got an amazing job offer in another state. Mark wasn't ready to leave his family and friends, so they decided to try long distance. It didn't work out. The distance, combined with their busy schedules, created a rift between them. They fought more often, mostly about not spending enough time together or not making enough effort to visit. The breaking point came during one of Sarah's visits home. Mark had planned a romantic weekend getaway, but Sarah got called into an emergency work meeting and had to cancel at the last minute. Mark was devastated. He felt like he was always the one making sacrifices while Sarah prioritized her career. They had a huge argument over the phone. Mark accused Sarah of not caring about their relationship anymore. Sarah fired back, saying Mark was being selfish and unsupportive of her dreams. In the heat of the moment, they both said hurtful things they couldn't take back. They broke up that night, both too stubborn and hurt to try and fix things. Mark told me he regretted how things ended with Sarah. He said he wished they had handled things more maturely, that maybe they could have found a way to make it work if they had just communicated better. At the time, I thought he was just being nostalgic about his first love. Now, I'm not so sure. Over the past week, I've noticed that Mark has been spending a lot of time with Sarah, supposedly helping her find a new place to live. They're often out together, looking at apartments or discussing her options. I've overheard them laughing and reminiscing about old times. It makes my stomach churn every time. Yesterday, something happened that confirmed my worst fears. I had decided to treat myself to lunch at my favorite cafe, hoping to clear my head and figure out what to do about this situation. As I walked in, I froze. There, in a cozy corner booth, were Mark and Sarah. They were sitting close, heads bent together in deep conversation. What made my heart drop was seeing their hands. They were holding hands across the table, fingers intertwined intimately. They looked like a couple, completely lost in their own world. I couldn't believe my eyes. All the doubts and insecurities I'd been feeling came crashing down on me at once. Was this why Mark was so insistent on helping Sarah? Had he been lying to me this whole time? I wanted to march over there and confront them, to demand answers and unleash all the hurt and anger I'd been holding in. But something stopped me. Maybe it was shock, or maybe a part of me didn't want to face the reality of what I was seeing. Instead, I quietly left the cafe and went home. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, replaying that scene in my mind over and over again. When Mark came home that evening, acting like everything was normal, I could barely look at him without feeling sick. Now, I'm torn about what to do next. Part of me wants to confront Mark with what I saw, to force him to admit what's really going on between him and Sarah. Another part of me is scared of what that confrontation might reveal. Am I ready to hear that the man I love, the man I thought I'd build a future with, has been lying to me? I feel like I'm at a crossroads. Do I fight for this relationship, try to understand what's happening, and see if there's anything left to salvage? Or do I cut my losses now, protect my heart before it gets even more broken? I'm planning to gather more evidence before I make any decisions. I want to be absolutely sure about what's going on between Mark and Sarah before I confront them. It's not something I ever thought I'd do, but I feel like I have no choice. I'll keep you all updated on what happens next. Once again, thank you for your support and advice. It means more to me than you know. Update 2. It's been another week since my last update, and a lot has happened. I've made some tough decisions, and I wanted to share the outcome with all of you who have been supporting me through this ordeal. After catching Mark and Sarah holding hands at the cafe, I decided to investigate further. I hated feeling like I had to spy on my own boyfriend, but I needed to know the truth. Over the next few days, I paid close attention to their interactions and movements. I noticed they were spending even more time together, often leaving the house early and returning late. They always had excuses: apartment hunting, helping Sarah with job applications, or meeting up with old friends. But their body language told a different story. They stood too close, laughed too intimately, and shared too many inside jokes. One evening, I pretended to go to bed early but actually waited by the window. I saw them return from one of their outings. They lingered by Sarah's car, talking in hushed tones. Then, to my horror, I saw them kiss. It wasn't a friendly peck, but a passionate, lingering kiss that left no doubt about their relationship. I took photos and even managed to record a video of their interaction. My hands were shaking, and I felt sick to my stomach, but I knew I needed evidence. I couldn't let them gaslight me or try to explain it away. The next morning, I woke up early and packed all of Mark's and Sarah's belongings. I placed them in the living room and waited for them to wake up. When they finally emerged, looking confused at the sight of their packed bags, I told them both to leave my house immediately. Mark was shocked. He tried to ask what was going on, but I didn't let him speak. I showed them the photos and video I had taken. Their faces paled and they fell silent. I told them I knew about their affair, that I had seen them at the cafe and caught them kissing outside our home. I said I couldn't believe how they had betrayed my trust, how they had turned me into someone who had to spy on her own partner. Sarah started to cry, mumbling apologies. Mark tried to explain, saying things had just happened, and that he never meant to hurt me. But I wasn't interested in their excuses or apologies. I told them I wanted them out of my house and out of my life. I said I deserved better than a cheating boyfriend and a deceitful houseguest. I made it clear that there was no chance of reconciliation, that Mark had broken my trust in a way that could never be repaired. They tried to argue, to ask for more time, but I stood firm. I told them if they weren't out in an hour, I would call the police and report them for trespassing. That seemed to finally get through to them. As they gathered their things, I sat on the couch, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and surprisingly, relief. Watching them scramble to leave, I realized how much stress and anxiety I had been carrying around for the past 2 weeks. Before they left, Mark tried one last time to apologize. He said he never meant for things to go this far, that he had been confused about his feelings. I just shook my head and pointed to the door. Sarah couldn't even look me in the eye as she hurried out. Once they were gone, I broke down. I cried for the relationship I thought I had, for the future I had imagined with Mark, for the trust that had been shattered. But as I cried, I also felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. I knew I had made the right decision. The past few days have been hard, but also liberating. I've changed the locks, deleted Mark's number, and blocked both him and Sarah on all social media. I've reached out to friends and family for support, and their love has been overwhelming. I'm still processing everything that happened, but I'm proud of myself for standing up for what I deserve. I know there will be tough days ahead, but I also know I'm strong enough to get through this. To everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey, thank you. Your words gave me strength when I needed it most. To anyone going through a similar situation, remember that you deserve honesty, respect, and true love. Don't settle for anything less. This will be my final update on this situation. I'm closing this chapter of my life and looking forward to healing and new beginnings. Thank you all once again for being there for me during this difficult time.